There are moments in life when time slows down, when the weight of a single realization crushes you so completely that even breathing feels like a struggle. That night, as I sat in my apartment, staring at the engagement ring I had carefully picked out, I felt that weight pressing down on my chest. It was supposed to be the happiest night of my life. Instead, it became the night I lost everything. I had always been the kind of man who believed in love, not the kind you see in movies, but the real kind, the kind that lasts through the hardest of times. That's why when I met Eloane, I was sure. She wasn't just beautiful, she was magnetic. The kind of person who could walk into a room and make it feel warmer. I loved her in a way I had never loved anyone before. But love, I learned, is only as strong as the truth behind it. The truth hit me in the most unexpected way. I wasn't snooping. I wasn't suspicious. If anything, I was busy planning how to make my proposal perfect. I had been thinking about it all day, rehearsing in my mind how I would say the words. I wanted it to be special. I wanted her to remember it forever. And she would. Just not in the way I had imagined. It was an accident. Her laptop was open on the couch and a notification popped up on the screen. At first, I wasn't going to look. But my name was in the message. My curiosity got the best of me. I told him I was working late. He has no idea. I'll be at the bar in an hour. I can't wait to see you again. I felt my heartbeat in my throat. I read the message again. And again. The words didn't change. My hands felt cold as I scrolled up, my stomach twisting into knots. The messages stretched back for months. This wasn't just a mistake. This was a choice. Over and over again. I couldn't move. I couldn't think. It was like my brain refused to accept what my eyes were seeing. She had lied to my face. She had looked me in the eye, kissed me, told me she loved me while sneaking off to be with someone else. And the worst part? She had no idea I knew. For a long time, I just sat there, staring at the screen, the engagement ring still clutched in my hand. The weight of what I had just discovered pressed down on me, and I knew this wasn't something I could fix. This wasn't something I could forgive. But I wasn't going to confront her. Not yet. Instead, I had an idea. A cruel, quiet kind of justice. I took the ring, placed it in a small gift box, and slipped a note inside. A simple sentence, but one that would change everything. I was going to ask you to be mine forever. But forever was never yours to give. Then I called a courier. Destination, the bar where she was meeting him. As I sat back in my chair, waiting for the night to unfold, I realized something. I wasn't heartbroken anymore. I was just waiting to watch the truth hit her the same way it had just hit me. And that was a feeling I would never forget. I don't know how long I sat there, staring at the screen after confirming the delivery order. The engagement ring, her engagement ring, was now in the hands of a courier on its way to the bar where she was laughing, drinking, and pretending to be someone she wasn't. I imagined the moment it would arrive. Would she open it right away? Would she recognize my handwriting on the note? Or would she feel a flicker of fear, the kind that creeps in when you know you've been caught? I wanted to see it happen. So I grabbed my keys. I wasn't planning on confronting her, not yet. I just wanted to witness the moment her perfect little world started to crumble. I needed to see her face when she realized I wasn't the fool she thought I was. The drive to the bar felt longer than it should have. My fingers gripped the steering wheel tighter than necessary, my mind replaying every lie she had ever told me. Every late-night excuse. Every "I love you" that now felt meaningless. When I pulled up to the parking lot, I turned off my headlights and scanned the entrance. And there she was. Eloane. She looked like she didn't have a care in the world, standing at the bar's entrance, smiling at someone who wasn't me. The man beside her was taller than me, dressed in an expensive jacket, the kind that screamed wealth and arrogance. His hand was on her lower back and she wasn't pushing it away. She leaned into him. She laughed. Something inside me twisted, but I didn't let it consume me. Not yet. I checked the time. The package should be arriving any minute. I stayed in my car, watching as they went inside. The weight in my chest wasn't sadness anymore. It was something colder. Something final. Minutes passed. Then, through the bar's large windows, I saw a delivery driver step inside, holding a small gift box. My gift. I leaned forward, barely blinking as I watched him approach Eloane. She was mid-sip of her drink when he handed it to her. Her expression shifted instantly. Confusion. Surprise. Then something else. She glanced around, probably expecting to see me. But I wasn't coming to her rescue this time. She set her drink down and slowly unwrapped the box, her fingers hesitant. The moment she lifted the lid, I knew the exact second she read the note. Her body stiffened. Her breath hitched. She looked up at her date, her lover, and for the first time that night, I saw panic in her eyes. She turned her head, scanning the room, searching. Probably hoping she'd find me standing somewhere, waiting to be reassured, waiting for her to spin another lie. But I wasn't inside. I was outside, watching her world tilt on its axis. Her lover leaned over to glance inside the box. His face twisted in confusion, then curiosity. He asked her something. I could see the way his lips moved, but I couldn't hear the words. I didn't need to. Eloan's hands shook as she snapped the lid shut. She said something back to him, fast and sharp, but he didn't look convinced. For the first time that night, she wasn't in control. And it only got worse from there. Her lover reached for the box, trying to take a closer look, but she yanked it away from him. The tension between them was visible even from where I sat. Then something I didn't expect. He laughed. It wasn't a laugh of amusement. It was mocking. Cold. Like he had just realized something that made her look like a joke. Eloan's face flushed deep red, her jaw clenched. She shoved the box into her purse, grabbed her drink, and threw it back like she needed liquid courage. But the damage was already done. The man she had risked everything for wasn't comforting her. He wasn't whispering reassurances. He was pulling out his phone, scrolling through something with an unreadable expression. Then he stood up. He didn't touch her. Didn't try to calm her down. He just looked at her one last time, said something short, and walked away. Eloan was frozen in place. Whatever he had just said had sucked the life right out of her. I watched as she sat there, motionless, her hands gripping the table. The chaos was written all over her face. The realization. The fear. And then, her phone lit up. Even from where I was, I could guess who was calling. Me. She stared at the screen for a long time before finally answering. I took a deep breath, steadied my voice, and spoke. How does it feel? Silence. Her breath was unsteady when she finally found the courage to respond. Where are you? I let a slow smile creep onto my face, even though she couldn't see it. Not where you are. I hung up. And for the first time that night, I felt something close to relief. This wasn't over yet. Not even close. But Eloan? She had no idea what was coming next. The moment I hung up, I sat back in my seat, watching her through the window. Eloan was still gripping her phone like it might give her an answer she didn't want to hear. Her face was pale, her fingers trembling. I could almost feel her panic through the glass. She had spent months lying to me, sneaking around behind my back, convincing herself that I would never know. And now? Now, the world she had so carefully built was collapsing right in front of her. I wasn't done yet. I could have left. I could have driven away and let her sit in the mess she had created. But something inside me wasn't satisfied. I needed to see how deep this went. And I had one more move to play tonight. I started my car and pulled out of the lot, driving just far enough that I wasn't in her immediate sight. Then I pulled up my phone. There was one more person who needed to hear about this. Her sister, Vera. Vera and I had always gotten along. Maybe too well. She had warned me once, Eloan isn't as perfect as you think she is. But I had brushed it off, convinced that she was just being an overprotective sibling. I wondered what she would say now. I scrolled through my contacts, my thumb hovering over her name. Would she pick up? Or would she already know? Only one way to find out. I hit the call button. The phone rang once. Twice. Then, hello? Her voice was groggy, like she had just woken up. Vera, I said, keeping my tone calm. I need to ask you something. She sighed. If this is about Eloan, you're not gonna like my answer. My stomach twisted. I closed my eyes for a second. How long? Silence. Vera, I pressed, my voice sharp now. How long have you known? There was a long exhale on the other end. Since the start, she admitted quietly. I felt my grip tighten on the steering wheel. Since the start. Yeah, she said, sounding genuinely guilty. I didn't know how to tell you. I wanted to, I swear, but she made me promise. She said it was just a phase, that she'd stop. I let out a hollow laugh. A phase? She swore she loved you, Vera continued, her voice pained. She told me you were the best thing that ever happened to her, but she still betrayed me. Vera didn't respond right away. And when she did, her voice was small. Yeah. The weight of her words settled deep in my chest. I had been played. Lied to. Not just by Eloan, but by the people closest to her. People who could have warned me. Who could have given me a chance to walk away before I put everything into this relationship. But they hadn't. I took a slow breath, forcing my emotions down. I couldn't lose control now. Instead, I asked the only question that mattered. Who is he? Vera hesitated. I could hear her debating whether to tell me, whether it would make things worse. But I already knew it would. His name is Archer. I froze. Archer. The name hit me like a punch to the gut. It wasn't just some random guy. He wasn't some stranger Eloan had met at a coffee shop. No. Archer was someone I knew, someone I trusted. And the moment I realized who he was, I knew this was far from over. I gripped the phone tighter, my knuckles turning white. Archer, I repeated, my voice coming out hoarse, like the name itself was poison in my throat. Vera exhaled shakily. I'm so sorry. I wanted to tell you sooner. I swear I did. But I didn't know how. And she kept saying. I tuned her out. My mind was already spinning, replaying the past few years like a movie on fast forward. Archer wasn't just some guy. He wasn't a stranger. He was my friend. Not my best friend, not someone I saw every day, but a friend nonetheless. We had shared drinks, laughed over inside jokes, sat at the same table during group dinners. He had met my family, shaken my hand, congratulated me on my promotion. And the whole time, he had been sleeping with Eloan. My stomach churned. My breathing felt uneven. How long? I asked again, even though I already knew I wouldn't like the answer. Vera hesitated. 2 years. I almost dropped the phone. I had been played for 2 years. While I was planning our future, while I was saving up for a ring, while I was convincing myself that Eloan was my forever. She had been giving her time, her body, her love to another man, to Archer. I let out a slow, shaky breath. My hands were trembling now, but I forced myself to stay calm. I had already set the first part of my plan into motion by sending her that ring. But this was bigger than I thought. She hadn't just cheated. She had built a double life. Are you okay? Vera's voice cut through the chaos in my mind. She sounded genuinely worried. You're scaring me. I swallowed down the burning rage in my throat. I'll be fine. Please, don't do anything crazy, she pleaded. I let out a low, bitter laugh. Don't worry, Vera. I'm not going to break any laws. There was a pause. That somehow doesn't make me feel better. I didn't answer. My mind was already working, putting together the next step. I needed more than just a confrontation. I needed proof. Proof that would destroy whatever perfect fantasy Eloan and Archer had built for themselves. And I knew exactly where to get it. The search for the truth. I ended the call with Vera and pulled up Archer's social media. If there was any part of him that was as reckless as I remembered, there would be something, anything, that pointed me in the right direction. I scrolled. Party photos, gym selfies, a couple of vague posts about living life to the fullest. Then I saw it. A tagged location. A hotel. The kind that was way too expensive for someone like Archer to casually visit. I clicked on the post. It was from last week. A flood of comments underneath. Laughing. Teasing. You're living the dream, man. Another weekend getaway? Lucky. Who's the mystery girl? Eyes. I clenched my jaw. I clicked on the tagged location, scanning the photos that others had posted there. And then, I found her. Not a full face, not a clear shot, but enough. A mirror selfie taken by some random girl, blurred out in the background, Eloan in a dress I had never seen before, standing next to Archer. At the hotel. I stared at the photo for a long time, feeling something inside me harden. This was it. The proof. I wasn't just going to confront her. I was going to expose her. The truth delivered. The next morning, I woke up early, running on nothing but adrenaline and bitterness. I wasn't going to let her keep lying. I wasn't going to let her act like this never happened. She was still at our apartment, probably pretending to be the perfect girlfriend, waiting for me to come home so she could wrap her arms around me and act like everything was normal. I wasn't going home. Instead, I sent her the picture. No words. No explanation. Just the photo of her and Archer at the hotel. The moment it was marked as read, my phone started ringing. Eloan. I let it ring. Then again. And again. A text followed. Frantic. Where are you? Please, talk to me. Then another. I can explain. I almost laughed. Explain? Explain what? That she had lied to me for 2 years? That she had whispered I love you to me while sneaking off to hotels with another man? She could save her breath. I had one more move to make. I opened my laptop, attached the photo, and forwarded it to someone else. Archer's girlfriend. Because yes, he had one too. And I had just ruined their perfect little world. The moment I hit send, I leaned back in my chair, feeling something close to satisfaction settle deep in my chest. It wasn't relief, not yet. But it was something. A small crack in the chaos, a moment of control in a situation that had stripped me of everything. Eloan was calling again. I let it ring. Then another text. Please, just let me explain. Explain what? That she hadn't meant to hurt me? That it was a mistake? That I was overreacting? No. There was nothing she could say that would erase 2 years of deception. I wasn't going to waste my time listening to the same manipulative nonsense she had been feeding me for years. Instead, I turned off my phone and waited. I didn't have to wait long. Less than an hour later, my apartment intercom buzzed. I already knew who it was. I didn't answer. A knock followed. Then another. Harder, more urgent this time. Eloan, I murmured to myself, standing just out of view of the door, listening as she knocked again. You're panicking, aren't you? I almost pitied her. Almost. Then I remembered the 2 years of lies, the hidden messages, the hotel rooms, and the way she had laughed with him in that bar. I thought about how she had stolen my time, how she had let me plan a future with her while she was building one with someone else. And just like that, the pity was gone. Another knock. Please, I know you're in there. I didn't move. A pause. Then her voice, softer now, trembling. I'm sorry, okay? I need to talk to you. I said nothing. Silence stretched between us, thick and suffocating. Then finally I heard her exhale shakily and footsteps faded down the hall. I gave it a few minutes before I checked the peephole. She was gone. But I knew this wasn't over. She wasn't the type to walk away without a fight. And neither was I. I turned my phone back on that evening, and the moment the screen lit up, the notifications flooded in. Missed calls. Texts. Voicemails. But it wasn't just from Eloan. There was one from Archer's girlfriend. It was short. Simple. Call me. I didn't hesitate. The line rang twice before she picked up. Her voice was tight, controlled, but I could hear the undercurrent of anger beneath it. How long have you known? Not long, I admitted. Just found out last night. She let out a slow, bitter exhale. I had my suspicions. But I never had proof. Not until now. The weight in her voice was familiar. It was the same hollow realization that had hit me when I first read those messages. The slow, creeping understanding that the life you thought you had was built on a lie. I sent you the picture, I said. But I have more. She was quiet for a long moment. Then her voice sharpened. Meet me. I blinked. What? I need to see everything you have. A pause. Then, softer, and I think you need to hear what I know too. I hesitated. There was something about the way she said it, something that sent a chill down my spine. This wasn't just about cheating anymore. It was something bigger. Something worse. We met at a quiet cafe tucked away from the busy streets. I arrived early, gripping a folder of screenshots, printouts, and messages, the evidence I had gathered over the past 24 hours. She walked in a few minutes later. I had met her before, once or twice. She was elegant in a way Eloan never was, collected, poised, but tonight there was a storm behind her eyes. She sat down, folded her hands together, and got straight to the point. I know why she chose Archer. I frowned. What do you mean? She leaned in slightly, lowering her voice. Archer isn't just some random guy she fell for. He's got money. More than you think. I shook my head. That's impossible. I know Archer. He works. She cut me off. That's his cover. His family has money. Old money. And Eloan? She's not just cheating. She's investing. I felt my stomach drop. You're saying she's using him? I'm saying, she said carefully, that she never planned to stay with you. You were the safe option. But Archer? He's the upgrade. The words hit like a punch. Everything suddenly made sense, the distance, the way she had pulled back over the last 2 years, the way she never fully left me but also never fully stayed. She had been waiting, testing the waters, making sure Archer was a sure bet before she jumped ship. And now that I had exposed everything, now that her safety net was gone, she was panicking. I let out a slow breath, gripping the table. I sent her the ring, I murmured. And I sent him the proof. She raised an eyebrow. And I smirked. She's running out of moves. Fast. She leaned back, crossing her arms. Good. Because I have one more play to make. I frowned. What are you planning? She pulled out her phone, scrolled for a second, and then turned the screen toward me. It was an email addressed to Archer's father. And attached to it, every single screenshot, every single photo, every single lie. She thought she was playing a game, she said, her voice cold. Let's see how she likes losing. And just like that, everything changed. I sat there, staring at her phone screen, watching the email sit in the drafts folder like a loaded gun waiting to go off. This wasn't just about betrayal anymore. This wasn't just about me. Eloane thought she was clever, thought she was playing chess while I was stuck in checkers. But what she didn't realize was that her own arrogance had sealed her fate long before I ever found out the truth. I looked up at Archer's girlfriend. No, his ex-girlfriend now, and saw the same fire in her eyes that I felt burning in my own chest. She wasn't looking for revenge. She was looking for justice. And honestly, so was I. Are you sure about this? I asked, my voice steady. She didn't even blink. He thinks he's untouchable. But his family, they'll cut him off the second they realize what kind of man he really is. I nodded, exhaling. This wasn't just about getting back at Eloane. It was about showing them both that actions have consequences. She tapped the screen, and just like that, the email was sent. A strange sort of calm settled over me. It was done. Now all that was left was to watch the fallout. The first domino falls. The next morning, my phone was already buzzing before I even opened my eyes. I ignored Eloane's calls. I ignored her texts. She had lost the right to speak to me the moment she chose him over me. But the message I wasn't expecting? One from Archer's father. It was short, simple. Meet me, today. My office. I almost laughed. This man, this powerful businessman who had probably never cared about anything but profits, was now suddenly very interested in what I had to say. So I went. His office was everything I expected, cold, expensive, suffocating. He didn't waste time with pleasantries. Sit. I did. He slid a printed stack of the email across the desk toward me. Is all of this true? I met his gaze. Yes. A long pause. Then he sighed, rubbing his temples. Do you know what my son told me last night? I shook my head. He said it wasn't serious, that it was just a fling. His voice darkened. But 2 years isn't a fling. 2 years is a relationship. I said nothing. He leaned forward. I don't tolerate people who lie to me, and I sure as hell don't tolerate people who make a fool of my family. Another pause. Then, he's out. Just like that. Cut off. The man who had stolen my relationship, who had thought he could take whatever he wanted without consequences, had just lost everything. I exhaled, nodding. I appreciate you telling me. But as I stood up to leave, he said something that stopped me in my tracks. Eloane is calling him. I turned back. What? She's panicking. She sees the walls closing in. And now that he's lost everything. His lips curled into a humorless smile. She's trying to keep him. I chuckled, shaking my head. Good luck with that. Because Eloane wasn't in love with Archer. She was in love with his money. And now, there was nothing left for her to love. The last goodbye. I didn't hear from Eloane for a few days after that. I think she was too busy trying to salvage the ruins of the life she had built for herself. But eventually she showed up. At my door. I considered not answering. But then I thought, no. I want to see this. I want to hear her say it. So I opened the door. She looked awful. Dark circles under her eyes. Her usually perfect hair a mess. She swallowed hard. Can we talk? I leaned against the doorframe. Talk about what? Tears welled up in her eyes. Fake ones. You weren't supposed to find out like this. I laughed. Actually laughed. Oh? How was I supposed to find out, Eloane? When you married him. When you had his kids. She flinched. It wasn't like that. It was exactly like that. She let out a shaky breath. I was going to tell you. Eventually. I tilted my head. Before or after I proposed? Silence. Her lip trembled. I made a mistake. No, I shook my head. Finally feeling free. You made a choice. Her eyes searched mine. I miss you. That should have hurt. It should have made me second-guess everything. But instead, it made me laugh. I stepped back, gesturing behind me. You miss this? The man you betrayed? The life you walked away from? Or do you miss having a safety net now that Archer is gone? She said nothing, and that was all the answer I needed. I exhaled, a deep, satisfying breath. Then, I pulled something from my pocket. Her engagement ring. The one I had planned to give her. The one I had sent to her at the bar. I placed it in her hand, smiling coldly. Here, a reminder of everything you lost. Then I shut the door in her face. For good. The future I deserve. Took me a long time to heal after that. There were nights where the anger still crept in, where I lay awake wondering how I had missed the signs, how I had been so blind. But I also learned something. I wasn't broken. I wasn't ruined. I wasn't defined by the way she betrayed me. I was free. Months later, I found myself sitting at a coffee shop, laughing, actually laughing, with someone new. Someone who didn't make me question my worth. Someone who looked at me the way I used to look at Aloan, before I knew better. And as I reached across the table, feeling something real for the first time in a long time, I realized something. Losing Aloan wasn't the worst thing that ever happened to me. It was the best, because it led me here, to something better, to someone better, to a future where I wasn't someone's backup plan. I was someone's first choice. And for the first time in 2 years I felt alive again.